Hey y'all, so today I'll be showing how you can make this fruit themed snow globe. This will probably be one of my last fruit snow globes just because I want to change the theme up for next month. So we are starting with a 24-ounce snow globe from Tipsy Magnolia. This one has a pink lid and they have others on their website with different color lids. It also comes with a plug, and then we're going to be using this design today. It's from Maisie Daisy. It's called Fruit of the Spirit. Yeah, and I got it printed at DKB Designs, but I'm going to go ahead and fold it up into 4 different triangles. So basically what you'll do is just fold it in half and then fold it in half again. And then once you have it folded just like that, you're going to cut it down the middle where the opening is. So you'll see me do that here. And then we're going to cut it again after that. So then you'll end up having 4 different triangles from this one piece of vinyl, and you can use it in multiple different ways. However, today I'm just going to use 2 pieces and kind of line it up so that it's a seamless, even though it's kind of not really a seamless, but it kind of is. And you'll see here what I'm talking about. So you'll still have pieces left over. You can do other things with it, but I'm going to use those 2 pieces today and line it up. So I'm going to put it on my Krafty Kell hand turner like I always do. I feel like it just makes applying vinyl to your cups super easy. So I'm going to take one side off, lay that down. And you do have to make sure that when you lay the other part down that you do get it lined up as best as you can, just so that it looks correct. Like I said before though, it's not really that much of a seamless, so it's going to be a little tedious, but I think I got it lined up pretty good. And then you are going to have to cut off the extra part, so there's going to be like a flap in the front. You don't have to cut that triangle part, but most times I do, so you'll see that here pretty soon. And then I always cut what's left over at the top and the bottom. For the top, I always cut and like leave a little bit of a gap so that the epoxy can actually adhere to the cup. That way, you know, the vinyl is sealed. And then I'm gonna apply some white striping tape over everything. I think really I only use about 2 pieces, and then I use like all the extra leftover pieces for the smaller gaps, like the one at the top, and then the 2 triangle or the openings at the bottom also. And then after that, we're gonna go ahead and apply my UV-DTF decal. So I didn't want to cut my decal in half, so I kind of just use like the fruits for the top, and then where I say fruit of the spirit, or fruits of the spirit, I put that like where it overlapped at, kind of, if that makes sense. And you'll see that here soon. Most times, a lot of what I do with my decals anyways is I usually cut it up and I like to spread it all over the cup too. So I really love that about decals, so that you're able to do that and that it actually comes up clear. So that's how that turned out. Next, I'm using my tilt stand from Krafty Kell, and this is really good for when you're roundstoning cups because it put things at different angle, but I like to use it for my 3D parts. So I'm going to use this so I can apply my 3D handle easier. The strawberry handle is from Danielle Spencer Exclusives, and I have it linked below. And I'm just adding a little bit of hot glue so that I can get it adhered while I work on it, and then I'll go back and epoxy it after I'm done. But before we go any further, make sure that you like and subscribe. More to come. So after the handle is on, I'm going to go ahead and start painting it. So I'm just using some red acrylic paint, and then the green paint that I'm using is called Colors from Adhesive Apothecary, and I kind of just mix them together just so that I can get that leafy green color that I wanted to. Painting while it's already on the cup is super easy too, because it's kind of like an open handle, if that makes sense. So it was easier to get in between everything without hitting into the cup, as you see. I really love using hot glue to permanently adhere stuff when I'm working on it because I feel like it's strong. However, if you don't like hot glue, or you prefer like UV resin or fast set, you can use that too. It doesn't really matter as long as you can get your handle on. And then I let that dry, but while that's drying, I'm gonna go start sculpting some fruit pieces, but we're not doing that today. In previous tutorials, I showed how you can sculpt stuff, and then I also have tutorials on my website, but what we're going to do today is show how you can make ice cubes using hot glue. So you can get an ice mold off of Etsy, off of Amazon, as long as it's these pieces, and you can go ahead and fill it in with hot glue. It does take a little while to cool down, so after you get everything filled up, you do want to set that to the side and let it dry maybe for like 10-15 minutes, let it cool down. But while that's cooling down, we're going to go ahead and fill the snow globe up. So I'm using the same solution that I used in last week's tutorial. It's this blackberry fizz solution from Adhesive Apothecary, and then I'm going to add in a little bit of snow. You only need a little bit because it'll make it puff up so fast. I really love her bottles and tips because I feel like it makes it easier to fill the snow globe up. And then once I have it all shooken up and ready to fill it up, I'm going to go ahead and fill my cup up. And then once you have it full, you can go ahead and plug it. So by this time now, your ice cube should be cooled down. I already have all my strawberry pieces cooled down, and we're going to start taking everything out. It did take like a little minute to get everything out because it was a lot of little ice cubes, but It does really work. Not all the time do you have to use epoxy or resin. This is another method you can use if you have like hot glue all the time and you have like a lot of hot glue sticks. This is another method that really does work out well. I can understand why somebody would be like iffy because it's not clear, but it does look like ice cubes once you have everything together and epoxied onto. Right now I'm just going to put everything onto my lid. I'm still using hot glue to adhere everything for the moment until I epoxy it, because I feel like it works really well. So most times that's how I do my lids. It just depends, but my tip will always be not to use too much hot glue, especially if you're using a clear lid that you would be able to see the bottom on. You just want to add enough just so that it can hold your stuff in place until you epoxy it as usual. So I went ahead and started adding some ice cubes. I'm now adding in my 3D sculpted lemon. And then yeah, I'm just going to keep working my way around the entire cup. So in between everything, I want to add my 3D parts and then the ice also. I do want to say that if you do want to get into sculpting more, especially with polymer clay, I think you should join my Facebook group, because once a month I offer an exclusive sculpting tutorial. So far I have a few in there. I just dropped a few over the last few months, and then I'm going to have one this month that's going to be like beach themed. So if you're interested in that, I think you should definitely join us. It's free. I just want to start encouraging people to sculpt more. But yeah, just continue to work your way around the cup. I started adding on my strawberry pieces, my blueberries. If you really want to get into learning how to sculpt strawberries, and I have a tutorial a few weeks back that I did for strawberries, so you can definitely check that out. The same thing with limes. It would be the same thing with like lemons and oranges, but like a different color clay you use, obviously. But yeah, just go ahead and work your way around your cup, figure out where you want to place everything, and then once you have everything placed, you can go ahead and epoxy it. So when I go to epoxy it, I'm going to be using Kell Custom's Lid Assistant, because I feel like it's really good to hold things while you're trying to epoxy, if that makes sense. And then I'm using a paintbrush. I'm not using my finger. I'm just using a smaller paintbrush just so that I can make sure that I'm able to get in between all the cracks and make sure that everything is actually sealed in. I did set a little epoxy off to the sides because I want to make a drip also, as I did my last few tutorials. So after I have this done, I'm going to start with my drip. So again, I'm only using a little bit of epoxy. I'm going to add some flour in, probably the same volume, so that I can get like a thick consistency like that. And then I'm going to add in my red paint and mix it all together. And then once that's done, I'm going to start adding my drips. I like to glide my popsicle stick on top of my cup, if that makes sense, rather than doing like one drip at a time, just because I feel like it makes it have more of an authentic drip look. But you can make it however you want. Most times I like using a thicker popsicle stick too, but again, I'm just using a smaller one this time. You do want to let that dry. I usually let mine dry like overnight, but that's how the entire thing turned out. You do want to go back and epoxy everything a few more times just so that you can make sure everything is sealed in. But this is how the entire tutorial turned out. Adding handles is super easy onto cups. The ice method was really fun. I feel like it's a really good thing to try to do, but I hope everyone loved this tutorial, and thank you for watching.